Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our joint NBN Academy and Norfolk Council of PTAs webinar. Thanks for your interest and for joining us this evening. I am Jim Herbst. I'm a programs manager in the City of Norfolk's Department of Neighborhood Development. I will be your host. We're so glad to be joined by Sharice Newsom, Nikki Southall, and Jackie Glass, and Sarah will be joining us shortly. We are so glad to have you. I was just looking at all the registrations. We have a great mix of civic leagues and PTAs and nonprofit organizations and faith-based organizations who are interested in this evening's topic, and so we are glad to have you all. If you haven't done so already, there is a trivia or 4 trivia questions in the poll. Feel free to go ahead and take those while we're getting started. Before we get too far, I wanted to go through a few housekeeping items that will hopefully help this run smoothly this evening. First, tonight's session is being recorded to place on the city's website for those who cannot attend live. Second, our presenters welcome questions. There should be a Q&A panel available to you to send presenters questions who will do their best to answer them during their presentations or after their presentations. I'll try, if we don't get to your questions, I'll try to find a polite place to interrupt and share your questions from the Q&A panel. Everyone but presenters is currently muted. At the end, however, I'll unmute everyone for any remaining questions or for any call-in attendees who can't type questions. I'll give you a warning before I unmute everybody so that you know about that. Third, we want neighbors to interact and network with each other, so we open the chat and participant panels so that you can see the neighbors with you this evening and that you can say hi to anyone that you know or to everybody. We do ask that in doing that, you be respectful in the chat room and generally keep your comments positive and not critical of others. Fourth, at the conclusion of this evening's webinar, I would like to ask your assistance before you leave in filling out our NBN Academy evaluation, which will be posted in the polling panel. Now, let's get to those trivia questions. I'm going to close the poll. Those of you who are still taking it, you have 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 second left. The poll should be closed, and there's the poll results. So the first question, the City of Norfolk's official seal contains a ship, a plow, and a sheaves. I think that's from like the early 1900s, I think. Next, the cannonball lodged in the side of St. Paul's Episcopal Church is from January of 1776. The third question is using census data from the most recent 2018. The estimated population under age 18 in Norfolk is 19.6%. And finally, the last trivia question is absolutely true. 37.1% or 8,265 of family households in Norfolk with children under 18 are headed by a female householder with no husband present. 12% are male householders, and then 50% are married households, to give you some background on this evening. I want to share a little bit about our agenda this evening and why we're doing this. No one that I know of, at least none of my friends or colleagues, knew or foresaw or invited the COVID-19 coronavirus to come and completely upend and disrupt our lives. However, out of that disruption, we have witnessed creative, resilient responses. For example, I live in the Sherwood Forest neighborhood, am a proud resident, and I saw on the news that the Sherwood Forest Elementary School was going to do a car parade. So I walked over there that day, and it did happen to be raining, and I saw or counted 39 carloads of people who were in decorated cars with balloons and streamers, and I looked across the street, and there were others who also had their houses decorated. I knew then that we should pay more attention and that we in the city's Department of Neighborhood Engagement might do well to tap into that energy. It was very inspiring to me. One of the questions that we frequently receive from civic leagues in the Department of Neighborhood Development is, how do we get more people to come to our meetings? A better question might be, how do we have an outward focus and find people who we can engage? And recent events, such as COVID-19, have given us opportunities to engage neighbors in new and creative ways that we would like to explore further this evening with PTAs. The last two trivia questions are important. With a fifth of the city's population under age 18 forced to learn virtually and not going to school, and 50% of families, largely single parents, trying to work and teach and all of the other things that go along with that, there are certainly thousands of opportunities for neighborhoods to engage residents if we just help make some of those connections. This evening's panel is to do just that. We have Sharice Newsom from the Norfolk Council of PTAs, my colleague Nikki Southall from the Department of Neighborhood Development, Jackie Glass from Ballentine Civic League. We're also expecting Sarah DeCaligero Wesley from the Blair Middle School PTA. They each have about 5 minutes to talk about their organization. Then we have some prepared questions for the panel, and then we'll open it up to additional questions related to neighborhood and PTA partnerships. We do want to say that the focus this evening is on those partnerships. Questions or comments about NPS or city policy are really beyond the scope of this particular panel, and so we'll have to defer those to other people. One of the suggestions that Sharice made in our planning is for neighborhoods and PTAs to do resource or what we call asset mapping. This is actually a course that we have done with the NBN Academy to talk about asset mapping. So I have placed on our NBN library page a list of resources and asset mapping tools. I also forgot to display that list of contact information, but not to worry. I will put that up at the end again so that everyone can have the contact information. All of our panelists have said if you want to contact them, if you have questions or you don't know how to get involved, they would be more than willing to help you and point you in the right direction. So we will put that up in a little while as well, since I forgot to put it up now. We'll get started with Sharice Newsom, who I want to thank for her partnership, her assistance setting this up, and for her long-term and commitment to education in Norfolk. Sharice, will you get us started?
Yes. Sorry, I had to run away right quick. I needed a prop. So good evening, everyone. I am delighted to join you for this very important webinar as we talk about ways that civic leagues and community organizations can partner with families of the PTA to ensure that students and communities have everything they need to be successful. I'm Sharice Newsom. I am a Norfolk native, and I live in the Larrymore Lawns area of Norfolk. I am a member of the Lake Whitehurst West Civic League, and I am the proud mom of 3 wonderful busy boys. So that was my prop that I had to go get. So you can see a picture of my kids, ages 9, 5, and 2. So I am president of the Norfolk Council of PTAs, and while I am a mom first, I am an advocate for all children so they can have what they need to succeed. And so people ask a lot of times, well, what is the PTA? Well, the Norfolk Council of PTAs is the body that provides guidance and oversight to all of the PTAs in the 44 schools in Norfolk. And we are a branch of the Virginia PTA as well as the National PTA. Some people don't know that we are a nonprofit, a 501c3 organization, and it's really important that we engage families and that we engage the community. While most of the members of the PTA are parents, not everyone is, and that's okay. You don't have to have a child in the school system in order to be a member or partner of the PTA. Anyone can join. In fact, the T in PTA stands for teachers. So the PTA welcomes teachers, custodians, food service workers, neighbors, uncles, grandparents, aunties, godparents, cousins, friends, you name it. If you want to support kids, then the PTA is the place for you. So we welcome all of you. And because we are diverse and we welcome so many people, we can accomplish more things. Also, PTAs are traditionally known for their family-friendly activities and for fundraising. A lot of the activities that bring in funds to the PTA help to support the good work going on in our schools. And sometimes that can take the center focus. However, the main purpose and mission of the PTA is to be a voice for children. We are an advocacy group. We advocate for everything and anything that will help make our children and our schools better and stronger. So the Norfolk Council of PTAs has been really focused on advocacy. This past year, during my first term as president, we really focused on developing what are called position statements, which let you know where we stand on certain issues with regard to school maintenance or with regard to diversity and even school reopening plans. So stay connected to the Norfolk PTA through our Facebook and social media accounts. You can find us at norfolkpta.org. And just know that we are welcoming of all people. Most school memberships are between $5 and $10 per family. At the PTA council level, our dues are about $25 each. But we also have a community partnership program for people who want to become a member of every PTA in the city of Norfolk, and I'd love to tell you more about that. So the PTAs are in this together with neighborhoods, with the school system, and with you.
Thank you, Sharice. Next up is Nikki, and I'll pull up your PowerPoint.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nikki Southall. I am the Neighborhood Relations Manager with the Division of Neighborhood Engagement with the Department of Neighborhood Development. So Jim is my coworker in our department. We have neighborhood development specialists that reach the entire city and touch all of the neighborhoods and communities. We work a lot directly with civic leagues and also all the wonderful programming that we're going to share with you now. So you can go to my next slide, Jim. All right, so what we do with the Department of Neighborhood Development, we have a three-prong approach with our Division of Neighborhood Engagement. We also have our Norfolk Cares Department, and then we also have our Neighborhood Quality. But in neighborhood engagement, we're focused on creating the resilient neighborhoods that we love to promote within our city. And that means we focus on the social, economic, and physical aspects of the neighborhood. As you know, each neighborhood in the city is different. Everybody has different characteristics. So we really work with the neighborhoods where they are to try to bring out the assets in each neighborhood. And I want to point that out because when we were having a conversation about what we were going to be discussing at this webinar, I thought it was imperative to tell everybody that our department looks at things, our division looks at things from an asset based. So we all know that there are problems and issues in every community, but we don't focus on the issues. We understand that there's issues, but we pull things up from an asset because there's so many great things in a neighborhood. And the first thing that's in the neighborhood are the people. The people are the foundation and the glue that holds communities together. So we want to focus on that, and that's what brings the resiliency. And that's what builds the trust in the relationship that supports the healthy neighborhoods that we do have. And so you can go to my next slide, Jim. So our neighborhood engagement initiatives, our first thing is our neighborhoods building neighbors building neighborhoods philosophy, excuse me. That means we engage residents, whether that is with partnering with our civic leagues and making sure that they are in tune with what happens with the city. And how we do that is we are basically a liaison between the civic leagues and the city. We work a lot one-on-one. Every civic league is different. Every neighborhood is different. So the needs and what they deal with can vary from neighborhood to neighborhood across the city. Building that capacity, having people understand that you can come to us, you can talk to people within your community, there are assets, and there's people that have been living in Norfolk all of their lives. There's things that people know that we don't know. And so what better way to get to know everything that happens in your community and the city is by touching the people that are right there next door to you. Residents are problem solvers. As I said, a lot of people have been living and breathing in Norfolk all their lives. Some have come from across the country. We are a military town. We have all of these different rich ways that people can get to know each other. So we really try to get people to go out and really communicate with each other. Healthy Neighborhoods Recognition is a program that we put together to help neighborhoods identify their assets and encourage participation, whether it be through a civic league or just a community organization itself. And then lastly, the 5 stages of community life. We know that neighborhoods are all going through different phases. So understanding what the 5 stages of community life are is imperative to how you can move ahead or work on some things. So we will be working on our 5 stages of community life process, And hopefully we'll be rolling that out soon because it's been very helpful for neighborhoods to really find out exactly where they are and how they can move ahead when it comes to the projects and maybe some of the initiatives that they're trying to do. And so the next slide, please, Jim. And so how we engage neighbors is our C3 model. That's our consult, communicate, and connect. So we provide the technical assistance to neighborhood associations, and that is really with our one-on-one. So we have these different neighborhoods. Our neighborhood service areas are broken up. So our neighborhood development specialist works with about 20 or so neighborhoods. Not every neighborhood has a civic league, but we really try to at least make sure that the residents are engaged in that area so that they can understand the process when it comes to how a city really relies on communities and neighborhoods to push things forward. We share lots of information, and some of you might be on my neighborhood notes email. Our neighborhood development specialists put out information as much as we can, and in turn, we also encourage residents to give us information so we can show all the good things that you do as well. It's always nice to see other neighbors showing other people in different communities what they're doing. So I think that's great. Our NBN Academy, which is something that we're doing right now when we have our webinars, and we teach our residents about different initiatives that we have, whether it's through our webinar classes, and we haven't had face-to-face because we've, of course, been dealing with COVID, but we've been putting them online. They're free and open to the public. We encourage anybody to come out. They are a wealth of information and knowledge, and just getting those tools to put in your toolkit to be a great resident in your community is something that we really, really want people to take part of. And they're offered throughout the year, so we customize them based off what we hear and see our residents say they want. And our next slide. There we go. So empowering residents to affect change. So advocacy is really important because once people understand the power that they have as a resident, the tools that we give you, the knowledge base that you all will learn, not just from us, from your peers. So when you have that group of people and you really get to understand what's going on, you can be consumers and go moving on to being a champion for your community. A strong civic league, as it says, is a true representation of a neighborhood. And it's because our neighborhoods really represent what our communities are looking for, our leaders within our city, whether they are our departments, different departments, and our city council members really rely on the information that they get from the residents. And so when you have that strong backbone, it's easy to have a connection with them. And then also, too, bringing up the next generation of leaders. Working with the PTA is imperative because what it does is it really shows residents how to formulate to be a good leader. And you start that as young as you can. I can't think of a better way to formulate the next generation's leaders by teaching people at a young age to really understand what it means to be a resident and a citizen just in your community, and then how you become a resident in your city. And I think that's imperative. And our next slide. So our neighborhood-focused events are things that we really, really hone on to make sure that residents understand that not only are they appreciated, but we want to celebrate them as well. So our leadership breakfast in January brings all of our Civic League presidents together for a breakfast. We really focus on our theme for the year, and we lead that theme throughout the entire year. And this year we had our mermaid tales. It was fabulous. We had over 40 Civic League presidents represented throughout the city, which I thought was really great. We had it at the historic Addicts Theater. It was very well attended, and it kicks off, it kind of gives you that cheerleader pump, that what you have to do, get yourself ready to go as a Civic League president, because we know that's one of the hardest jobs, is to be a Civic League president, so we want to acknowledge that. Our NBN Conference and Awards Luncheon allows residents to basically celebrate themselves and all of the accomplishments that they do, and we have a keynote speaker, and we bring that theme throughout. The Neighborhood Expo is also something that we do. It's a free event at Military Circle Mall in September. We won't be having it this year because COVID, but we'll make sure we'll have it again next year. And then our annual Shoot Hoops Not Guns basketball tournament is done with our interns in the summertime. And again, bringing the youth together, having them understand what it means to connect and really have a place in their own community. And they put everything together themselves. We sit back and watch it, and we think it's a great idea and great time. And our next slide, Jim. I think that might be my last slide. Did I go through all my slides?
Yes, I think that was your last slide.
That was my last slide. So I'll just sum it up by just saying, so what we do in neighborhood engagement is we really look at the assets. We want to make sure that everybody understands that there are assets in the community, and once you build on those and you come together, then that's what really makes the neighborhood shine. So working with the PTAs and working with Sharice and working with folks like Jackie and Sarah is imperative to really keep that fabric and cohesion of communities together.
Thank you, Nikki. Very good commercial for neighborhood development. Next up is Sarah. We are happy to have Sarah. She brings a wealth of experience, not just as a parent and a president of a PTA, but she's also a teacher who specializes in, also helps with virtual teaching. And because of the storm last week, she offered to even come back this evening. We had to postpone it 1 week, and she's even doing this out of the goodness of her heart. Even I think she's on vacation this week. So we're very happy to have Sarah with us. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Hi, my name is Sarah DiCalagero, but around PTAs, I'm known as Sarah Wesley because that's my girl's last name. So I currently have a elementary, middle, and high schooler, and I'm serving as the president of the Blair PTA and have served at Taylor Elementary as the president and also involved now at Maury High School. As Jim alluded to, I also am a math professor at TCC, downtown Norfolk campus, and have been teaching virtually for about 15 years. So all the stuff that is going on right now with our kids, our schools, is really just near and dear to my heart. Sharice did such a great job. The overall PTA plug, I'm not quite sure what else to say there, but really, PTAs can be the heartbeat of a community. And I got some great former PTA president whose kids are now in their 30s having kids of their own. And she said, back when she was PTA president at Taylor Elementary, she knocked on every door in the neighborhood and asked the neighbors to join the PTA. And I think we really need to get back to having this be a community-based organization. At Blair, the last year, we decided to go dues-less. So anybody could join. We didn't care. We were fine if we didn't get your $5. We just had it as an optional donation. And in the wash, people donated for teachers. People donated for other people. And we had more than enough money to pay our local and state dues. So I'm just here as somebody who's very involved in their community. And that's about all I can say. I actually was running around the house that we're staying at on vacation to work a little bit better. So I may go in and out. We'll see. But all the kids here have been banned from streaming for the next 45 minutes or so. So hopefully that'll be good. So thank you for having me here. I really appreciated the invite.
Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate it. Next up is Jackie Glass. She is president of the Ballentine Civic League, always cheerful, at least when I've seen her. So we're very happy to have Jackie with us this evening. Jackie?
Hey, thanks, Jim. I'm always cheerful because you deserve all this cheer because you give it back. But I am Jackie Glass, president of Ballentine Place Civic League, and like Sarah, I think Nikki kind of drove a lot of the why and the what for Civic Leagues home. But I will say is that, you know, as a member of the community and a president of the Civic League, I truly believe that we are as successful as how we treat our littlest citizens and our eldest citizens. And as a Civic League, I believe we kind of live by the motto of village is a verb. And it's an action that we are committed to on day in and day out. I too have two little citizens that are in Norfolk Public Schools, so there is a tie there. But I also know that they are not emerging leaders in the community. They are neighbors. I have neighbors that are 2 months old, and I have neighbors that are 82 years old. and we grant them those same courtesies across the board. As a Civic League, I think the biggest thing that I could say about the organization, I think the Civic Leagues are our city's superpower. So undervalued, but hardworking when they're there. And I think what I've seen over the past couple of years is the partnerships have made us even stronger. As I see some fellow Civic leaders in there, Barb, and such, that we try to connect to get jobs done, whether it's in our own corner of the world, on the other side of the city. One thing that we really are, kind of work with or have to challenge ourselves with is that we get maybe 10% of the neighborhood to show up, but 100% of the neighborhoods to tell us, what the problems are. So we're dealing with everything from conservation to can on the road, from people to preservation of buildings. Like it's completely across the board. And what we do is we show up as an asset. I think the biggest asset as a Civic League has been our ears and our eyes, as Sarah kind of said, keeping our ears to the ground and our eyes on our neighbors. And truly, like I said, going back to that village mind, I will be on, be brief, and be off, and say that as a Civic League president, I am led by, there's not a lot of leading per se, but I am led by an amazing group of people that turn my head to the issues that are important to the community. But on top of that, I'm here. My role is really to guide that process. Our Civic League has been very fortunate to have 4 generations of leadership and 4 generations of membership, and 4 generations of folks coming to the table telling us what could, would, should, and not work at all times. So we are truly blessed to be a Civic League that is very indicative of we're culturally and generationally diverse, but also at a point where we are really, all we're looking to do is evolve and evolve as our community does, and to continuously be an asset to not only our corner of the world, but to the city as a whole. We are building our community capital, and we're so grateful to have the Department of Neighborhood Development to do these sorts of things to help you guys to build your community capital wherever you may be. So, Jim, thank you for having me, and I'm ready to open my ears and close my mouth.
Thank you, Jessica. We appreciate it. So we have a few prepared questions that I think our panelists have thought about. One of those questions that we really would like to get out there are, what are some examples both now during COVID-19 and maybe before COVID-19 of neighborhoods and schools or PTAs working together to support families and schools in the neighborhood? Can any of you, name some examples of things that neighborhoods or PTAs have done?
So I can go first, if that's okay. One of the best things that neighborhoods and residents can do to support schools is to wear a mask. Everybody see my mask? Okay, that is super important because we want to get the COVID numbers down. We know that unfortunately Hampton Roads has been a hot spot. So as we are all being careful and safe and using our masks and taking good care of ourselves and hand hygiene and all that good stuff, that will help us get our COVID numbers down. And when we do that, then our community will be in a better place to safely welcome staff and students back to school. So that is one of the best ways you can support the PTA right now. It may seem simple, it may seem small, but for your well-being and for the sake of our neighbors and friends, please mask up. Some other examples of how communities have worked closely with PTAs, to Jim's point earlier, the Sherwood Forest PTA and the community members hosting that drive-through parade. I know in Lake Whitehurst West, there was a driveway concert that one of our neighbors had that was very family-friendly. That's a way of supporting families and children. We all have to social distance and can't go to our regular concert venues, but they did a little informal thing in their driveway, and that was great. In Park Place, you have community members supporting a little library. I know the Norfolk Public Library has a program that will be great for civic leagues to get involved in with their local PTAs and schools to set up some little library libraries that support literacy and reading for families. I know Little Creek Church and the Little Creek Elementary PTA have partnered up to do a lot of family-friendly activities outdoors, social distance style, such as a movie night. And so those are some of the things that are happening during COVID. But all throughout the year, we have civic leagues who have made donations to school, help collect back-to-school supplies, who have helped with meal distribution. And so there are many things that residents can do to help support schools and PTAs.
I'll also add too that I think it's interesting that PTAs, like you said, PTAs for everyone. I saw you type that in the notes. That civic leagues can be PTA members. They can also join. Now, Sharice, can they? I know they can join individually, but can a civic league join the PTA as a group itself, or do you still have to do it as an individual?
So PTAs will kind of establish their own rules, but most will have what's called like a family or a group membership. And so definitely talk to your local unit, your school PTA about that. I know at the council level, absolutely organizations can join. You can visit our website for more details about those individual memberships versus those group memberships.
Okay, and that's a great way for a complete organization to support a PTA. And also, too, you don't have to just belong to one PTA. You can, like you said, you can belong to several. And I know one of the things, and I know, Jackie, you have a lot of volunteers. You have young folks in your neighborhood, and Jackie pulls them and says, I need some help. But there's a lot of young people that are looking for volunteer hours, and civic leagues are excellent places to give young students volunteer hours, and as young as elementary school. So those are great ways that civic leagues can partner with PTAs and schools to be able to really engage those young citizens, as Jackie calls them. We all should call them. And then that way they can get that leadership track on what it means to take care of your neighborhood, and also with that partnership with the schools. So that's one of my suggestions.
And I will put this out there. We'd love to have the civic leagues surrounding Blair that feed into Blair, Park Place, Lambert's Point, Ghent, West Ghent. I'm sure I'm missing 20 more, Larchmont, probably missing more east, but we would be very happy to have any of our feeder area civic leagues join us.
So some of the opportunities that I'll say for Ballentine Place that have been presented since COVID, one is, let me just put it out there, that our very first speaker of the year was the principal of the elementary school. So we are really like honed in on being a part of that process. But since COVID has happened, we have really focused in on building partnerships so that, is Sharice, it looks like it said Sharice is speaking, I'm sorry, pause for a second. So we have been working with REACH, a local organization, REACH, which we gave us over $2,000 worth of books to hand out to little citizens in the neighborhoods. Not only did the little citizens receive books, brand spanking new books. We were able to give out crossword puzzles to some of our elderly, as well as like stickers and different activities for them to have at the beginning of COVID, because we didn't have libraries. We started meeting virtually, which is something that I'll tell you as a youngster, because I'm a youngster. When it comes to my league, I've been saying, let's do it, y'all. We got to also be virtual. I got them to do Facebook Live, but now we're like full on virtual, which has been an amazing asset for us in being able to get families to the table at different times without having to show up with all the kids. What else? I had a couple of things. We also, as a community, we painted a little library for another neighborhood. So NRHA approached Friends of the Norfolk Public Library and said, hey, do you know any community members that might want to decorate a little library for another community? And that's what we did as a civic league. We painted a box, one of the little libraries. I think it's going over to Diggs, but we've had a lot of opportunities to really hone in on what does partnership look like, and because everybody's wondering what to do.
Thank you, Jeff. And well, all of you, those are great answers. Are there any opportunities? You've already kind of mentioned some of these. Are there anything that you have seen as opportunities that have arisen because of COVID-19?
I'll answer that. One thing, can you hear me? Yeah. One thing that I noticed at work is that I chair the faculty senate for TCC this year, and we had to put our Senate meetings online. We had almost 100 people attend a Senate meeting. We only have like 21 designated senators that have to attend meetings. But because they were online, it was easy for faculty from all over the region to attend the Senate meeting. So I am noticing that even things like this, like a community forum, can bring in even more people, because sometimes it's 6 o'clock at night and you get home and you cannot get back out the door. So we're hoping at Blair to do, I helped facilitate a parent chat last week with the principal and parents, and I think we had close to 200 parents show up during 2 of these parent chat sessions that probably wouldn't have come to the school in sort of a more normal life, in 2019. So, it does distance us, right? Technology does distance us, but it also gives us the opportunity to meet in a way that might not have been possible before because of our responsibilities in our lives. So I do think that this is really an opportunity to take some of these PTA meetings online. It's a lot easier to come onto a Zoom than to drive 25 minutes across Norfolk to try to attend like the Norfolk Council of PTA meetings if it's not in a neighborhood close to you. And we should look at this as an opportunity in that way. And hopefully after COVID, we'll be able to still use these digital resources, maybe not as much, but we can still use them to kind of get more of the word out there.
Good stuff.
Hopefully, if we're not virtual, if we're still virtual in December, I see an opportunity for us. For the past 2 years, we've had little citizens in our neighborhoods go caroling. So I'm hoping that maybe this year we'll get some more little citizens and it'll be multi-generational and we can virtually carol. To Sarah's point is that I just think that it has been a real true opportunity to connect in ways that we hadn't ordinarily. The thing about this sort of level of connection that we have is that we also have to hold in our hands. As a Civic League president, I know that I have to hold in my hands the moving forward of the generation that I'm in, while holding in my hands and they're not staying still, but the continued habits of the generation that came before me. So really figuring out how to marry those things, whether it's between a newsletter and a door knock and the virtual stuff, but really honing in on what it is that we need to do to be successful, to have a reach across the board while not counting anyone out. Because it's very easy, I think, right now to forget that, you got a neighbor 2 doors down that does not have the internet or will not pick up a smartphone because that's just not in their wheelhouse. It's just not going to happen. So I think that we've been working on being brilliant on the basics as far as connecting our community. It's been an amazing opportunity.
Great stuff. And again, I've seen some questions, but feel free to submit. I'm talking to participants. Feel free to submit any additional questions in the Q&A panel. I've seen some questions about Cox and NPS policy. I think we've got some answers in the chat room, which is good because they're a little beyond our neighborhood work. I know that there's some organizations, and there was even some discussion as to bringing in some other organizations for possibly, or working with some other organizations to address some of those issues. But I think we've got some good answers in the chat room regarding the internet questions. Next up is, if each of you had a wish list of things neighborhoods or PTAs could partner what would your top 3 items be in 60 seconds or less? Does that make any sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
My top 3 items would be reliable internet for all of our citizens, and devices for all of our little citizens in our schools. It all comes down to equity. We have to, all our kids are going to be learning digitally in some form or of another. Right now, we have at least 9 weeks to look forward to. My guess is it's going to be much longer than that. And we have to bridge that digital divide so that kids can at least start out in the same digital playing field. That to me is the most important thing. And I would like to see the city step up a little bit more in that area. I do know that NPS has indicated in the school board meeting that they have a device for every student. I think NPS should move towards a policy of you get a device, you opt out of one, you don't opt into one. That is what Virginia Beach does. Every student is issued a Chromebook. You have to opt out, not opt in. And we just need to start to think about internet access as a utility. It's something that you need in order to be able to function in the world that we live in. Thanks.
That was a nice, clear answer. Thank you.
So, you go, Ms. Jackie.
No, I'm not. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've put down 2 so far. Participating in your neighborhood meetings. A lot of times residents will work in their own silo. They'll have all these great ideas, or they'll think that they know the answers to all of the city's questions, and they don't know city process. And I was guilty of that before I became active in my own civic league, and being a mom. And I have a graduate of Norfolk Public Schools, and then I have a seventh grader. So I have a college student and I have a 7th grader, and then I've got nieces and nephews, and they all went to public school, and I graduated from public school. But I'm in the neighborhood, and I'm a mom, and I think I know what's going on. I know the city can do this. If I pick up the phone, they're going to do that. And you think, along with being a parent and also being in your community, that you can the answers are just going to come up. And there's a process behind it. There's a process behind a lot of things. So being part of that group conversation when it comes to your community gives you a lot better insight about processes. It does not mean we all agree with the process. It just gives you a better understanding of how the process works. So that was one of my wishes. The other one is more people in communities actually physically volunteering in the schools. It's your neighborhood school. Sharice, you said something. I write down a little, everybody who knows me, when I go to a meeting, I always write down a little note or 2. You said that, the schools are the heartbeats. They're the connector of their community. If you live in your community, your neighborhood school, whether it's the high school, middle school, or elementary school, should be just as familiar to you as your next door neighbor, because those are the people that are in your neighborhoods. That's like the Sesame Street, right? But it's true. So, actually going to volunteer and do what you can with what you have. Nobody says you have to be super volunteer, but it could just be a little bit. And so if everybody just gives a little bit of their time to your neighborhood school, you would start to see that community cohesion that we're all desperately trying to achieve. So those are my top 2. I don't have a third because I didn't want to string it out, but that's mine.
We'll take 2.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So what I would say is one of the biggest things to Nikki's point, I would say, is just identifying places of passion. So I know that the PTA probably has folks do a questionnaire, or here's a committee what committees are you interested in, and those sorts of things. I'd love to share data because data is king, and just in how to engage with our neighbors that may be all in on education, but not really sure what they can do outside of the door, as we believe that, every little citizen that walks into a school is coming from a community, so they bringing us with them anyway. So let's go ahead and I would love to work on sharing the data. I'd also really love to work more on advocating collaboratively. A lot of what we're talking, and you see it in the chat box there, folks asking questions about things that are happening in the city, folks asking about questions that happen with the school, all of it's married together. So I do think that I'd love to get married to a PTA and start really like building this relationship so that we can show up, in a phenomenal way for our community as a whole, for our city. Lastly, this is going to sound really weird, but I'd love to work with PTAs on advocating for like Norfolk Cares, right? I know that's really weird, but I'm going to just tell you, like, Norfolk Cares is like having the app is like having the whole city in your pocket, right? So I would love to work with them on teaching community people how to use it. There's a sense of empowerment that comes when you're able to pick out your phone and do get your neighbor a new trash can, fix that light that has been flickering in the neighborhood. I think if we are able to work together with something as simple as Norfolk Cares and empowering people to do these little tiny things in the community, that translates back into the schools. I had my son do our bulk pickup request on his phone this week because he can do it, right? So I just think that's if it was really one tiny thing, I just want to get out of the mind of where we cannot change the world, but we can change our world. And I think something as tiny as that would really start reshaping and reforming paradigms about where we live and how we take it into the education system.
Good stuff.
That was well said. I just wanted to say that was great. I'm going to mute myself now.
And the Norfolk Cares is also in the Department of Neighborhood Development, just a little commercial. Any other answers on that one? All right, the next question is one that in our planning meeting, Sharice brought up that I thought was something I was very curious about, is that she mentions that there's probably, or there is people in every neighborhood, there are people in every neighborhood that are suffering in silence. And so who are some of those people that we should be looking for, our neighbors that might be suffering in silence?
So I'll take a stab at this question, and it's a really good one, and I think it's good because it causes us to reflect and to think about our neighbors. And during COVID-19, I know I have been guilty of being so focused on, my struggles as a parent, right? And sometimes it's easy to get caught up in what we are experiencing and forget that there are other people who are going through the same thing or even something different. So it's a really important question because it really causes us to reflect and to think about our neighbors and our friends and what we might be able to do to help them. So that said, I did have two groups that I thought about. I thought about understandably, families with young children who are balancing parenting and then the school closures and virtual learning and even trying to work, even to the statistics that you all mentioned earlier in the poll. When you look at the demographics of the city of Norfolk, we have a lot of single parent households. We can make certain inferences, although we should not necessarily assume, but as we continue to dig into that data point, having myself grown up in a single parent household, I have observed how challenging it can be to balance all of that. So I think families with young children, especially families that are co-parenting or families that have one head of household, I think that can present an additional set of challenges. And when you think about those people, what are the things the activities that we're doing? What are the policies we're advocating for? What are the structures of our meetings that make it easy or hard for people to participate? Let's not forget about those people. Also, I'm a millennial, I'm an older millennial, which means I'm a little old school too. And so I'm all about the technology. As we mentioned, our PTA meetings are online. We're doing this webinar, that's great, but I'm a big proponent of some of the old-fashioned things. You may not want to get close, but you can drive by and wave at your neighbors. You can send a handwritten note to someone and say, I'm just thinking about you, I care. Encouragement goes a long, long way. And then the other population I thought about that might be suffering in silence are families who speak languages other than English. A lot of the services that are provided and information that we share, even through PTA, normally comes through English. And while that is a common language many of us share, because we have such a diverse community in Norfolk, I think it's really important that we just reflect on how we are communicating with people and making sure that we're using languages and methods that are both reliable and convenient. So I think about our families who speak languages other than English and what information they might be missing. And I thought it was really great that the newspaper, the Virginia Pilot, is starting to put out resources, COVID-19 resources in Spanish. That is just one step. And so from that, it was a reminder to me as a PTA leader to say, what information am I putting out and how can I connect with families that speak different languages? And so we also have begun including, materials and meetings with diverse language support. And so let's just think about those families and those residents and ways that we can make sure we engage, because sometimes language is a barrier either way, but I think we have all these creative technologies and techniques to help us overcome those.
Very good.
And I would say that social media.
I got to preview Sharice's answers earlier, and they were all very good. Sorry to interrupt, Sarah.
No, I would just say that what is amazing to me is people using social media for good. Now, the Nextdoor app, somebody puts something up that they're in need of, somebody offers it up right away. Some of the neighborhoods have their own Facebook groups. You post on there, you get 5 different opinions and 5 different offers at the same time. And even in my neighborhood, somebody set up a tent with a sign and just put things out every day saying, if you need it, please take it. And it is really just, the community stepping up. And I think that people right now really feel they don't know how to help, because what can you do? You can't go volunteer your time somewhere, but if you knew somebody needed food, you could probably go and pick it up for them. But how do you find out somebody needs their groceries picked up or their medicines picked up? And it is because we all kind of are a little stressed, right? We are a little stressed. We wear it on our face. But when you have the opportunity to do something for somebody else, it actually helps you as well. So we just have to figure out how to talk to each other in a way that we can provide support. Now, I don't have all the answers on this. I mean, I'm a technology, I think that can solve a lot of our problems, but that is not true. One of the parents asked about, what about parents who get a device, but they don't really have the time or the ability to learn how to use it? Well, one of the benefits of a Chromebook is you turn it on, they log into their school account, and it's just kind of there, right? If you can get onto the web, it's just kind of there. And what is nice, if you think about all students having the same device, is that if they're trying to connect to a Zoom class and they're having trouble doing something, the teacher knows which version of Zoom they're actually connecting on, because I use Zoom on a PC, a Mac, an iPad, an iPhone, and a Chromebook, and it doesn't look the same on all five devices. So, there are things that we can do. PTAs could organize some outdoor. I'd be willing to, have a day where masked up, gloved up, right? People got to get access to a hotspot, but if somebody doesn't know how to use their device, we could probably safely do it outside with some distancing and some good masking to just show people how to do these things so that their kid can be successful at home.
And I have to all the above, right? All of the above and in between. Particularly, like I said, we are honing in on the oldest and the littlest of citizens. That tells you a lot about a community. But something that kind of hit me as we've all been talking is because these issues or because these needs, whether it's the language barrier within the schools or within the city, it's there. It's been there across the board. And Sharice pinged on that. So I'm going to say I still got some books for some Spanish-speaking citizens. If you know some Spanish-speaking citizens, I got packets of books. they can have them from toddler to whatever, but in the same breath that we hold the city and the school system responsible or irresponsible for certain things, I think as the PTA and the civic leagues, we can sort of kind of take that level of accountability as well outside of the bureaucracy of the government, right? Like, I think there's a level of accountability that we can have, hopefully, after post this conversation. Yeah, and I would love it if we would support those who have not done their census. Like, yeah, that's a side. They're helping me suffer in silence. So, if you know someone with some that has not taken advantage of the opportunity to get some funds in our neighborhood, let's help them out. Whether I know that I had a gentleman come to my house that he's illiterate, and I was grateful that he was able to say openly, "Hey, Miss Jackie, I'm illiterate. You're gonna have to not only I'll need you to do my census, but can you also help me pay my car taxes?" So really making a space and a place, like as Cherise said, for everybody suffering, just like Sarah said, but really I think we need everybody to be thinking about all of the above and everything in between. That's it.
And I wanted to address some questions going on in the chat that the materials covered on the devices. I've been teaching online for well over a decade, and I developed my own courses. And typically, how these courses will work is they will log into the course, and there will be a guide in that course of where to go, what activities to do, all those other things. And there should be some training provided by the school system when we are using this virtual Virginia platform as a background, as we are using Canvas. And as someone who has used Canvas and understands that it is somewhere between intuitive and makes you feel like you're going to pull your hair out the first time you ever use it, right? So I think that these are really good comments that we need to get to our school board leaders and PTAs. Cherise can definitely take some of these concerns and comments and share that. I'll be happy to share that with the principals that I work with, and, write those letters to your school board members. Write your letters to Dr. Cataldo. Write letters to Dr. Birdsong. Just keep them coming. Let them know that you care and that you want, you basically are demanding answers for these questions so that your kids can have the best start on their education come September 8th.
And I'll just add to that. Everything that I've heard from Ms. Sarah, Ms. Cherise, and Ms. Jackie have all touched on assets. So I'll say it again, that there are so many different kinds of assets within a community. So whether you call them resources or assets in your community, to pull them out, people have time and the abilities to help in ways. I've been kind of looking at the people's chats, and a group of parents can do this, or we can find somebody from a tech can do it and teach somebody. So I think if we you take the time out to formulate it, and you put together the ask, just be prepared to receive, all the things that come with you. And part of that is it's interesting because I'll kind of go back to what I had said before about you don't know what you don't know until you start getting taught about it. This is a little shameless plug for our division. We pride ourselves in helping people put things together so that they can push out their leaderfulness, if that's the right way to say it. I don't know if basically it means that you have a lot of drive, you have a lot of spirit, you have a lot of ideas, but sometimes when you put it all together, it doesn't go out the way that you want it to. So we have classes that help you about how to formulate a meeting, how to do conflict resolution, how to do facilitation and mediation. All of those things are the things that takes to be able to put things together so that all of your ideas can come. So that's a shameless plug for us because we do those things. So it's great when residents come together to our NBN classes because those are, again, things in your toolkit that you can keep. And then you'll start to find out all the assets in your community. And then you realize, I've got all these great people that can help me do all these great, wonderful ideas that we've just talked about and then some. So this is exciting and uplifting to see people talk about this in this way.
And so there are some other questions in the chat about how do you connect helpers with those that need it. I will say this, Blair Middle School has started their own YouTube channel, and they are doing the virtual, the fifth grade orientation has gone virtual, and the first day of orientation is just being broadcast through their YouTube channel that can be watched at any point or come back to. There are also concerns about like what are the kids going to have, what kind of oversight will kids have when they're home during the day. I do know that the YMCA is expanding their programs. They will have a sliding scale for payment, and that could potentially be a really good community resource. I know that for my daughter, one of my daughters, we're doing a little learning hub with like 2 other girls, and we have decided, or kind of push the other parents, so we have decided that we're going to reach out to the guidance counselor and see if there is another child in that program who all 3 of them have the exact same school schedule. If there's another child that maybe, single parent, just, they know about, that we could bring into our learning hub seamlessly and just, we can't solve all the problems, but maybe we can help out an additional family. It's just one family at a time, reaching out that way to kind of, help all our kids. It's got to be the community. And if you think about it, if you have somebody who, we might have retirees that are close with families, families in their neighborhood. Why couldn't those retirees help out? It just depends on where that level of support is in your community and what you can do. Our little learning hub, we're going to have we're going to have rules about like what parents do. We all said, yes, we don't go out to bars and restaurants without our masks on. Those types of things to try to minimize the risk of having our kids together. But I think that even if you could just reach out and help one other family, that is enough to start that ripple effect in our community.
These are great resources. Thanks, you all. If in case anybody has to leave, I've posted the poll for the NBN Academy evaluation. We can continue, but that one question is really important. That connecting question. Who, for instance, I know that there are civic leagues, there are, volunteers in our neighborhood, there are churches who want to do something, who want to catch those people who are suffering in silence, who could help with internet, who could help with technology, but they don't know, like I think, was it Barb or whoever, I forget who posted the question, but they don't know where to go. So who are some of those connectors in the neighborhood that if I want to help, who would be able to, for instance, Spanish speaking, or, who would I go to try to connect with some of the people who need the help?
Your PTAs. Go to your PTAs.
Good answer. I'll just go really briefly. I'll tell you what I do, and I hope it's helpful, but I'm here to learn too. So in reaching populations that I still need to learn more about, I go to faith-based communities. It has been really good connecting with some local churches and some cultural organizations that have contact with communities that I need to spend more time getting to know. And so that often is an entry point. That's not the end all and be all, but it is an entry point. Last year, I attended the Nuestra Feria for the first time at Lakewood Park, and it's an annual celebration in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, which will be coming up soon. And so, I went to learn and participate as a PTA, but from there, I also got in touch with some families in the Latinx community that I had not interacted with. So attending those cultural celebrations when possible, we know that now there's not a whole lot of events, but connecting with faith-based communities and cultural organizations is a great way. Businesses also are a great way. And if you are a business owner, or if you are one of those faith-based organizations, please help spread the word. You're going to be in touch with populations and people and residents that schools may not see, or the city departments may not see every day. Can you post something on your marquee, or put a flyer on your takeout counter? Here's how you can get information about back to school. Maybe you'll do it seasonally. Maybe, only at certain times of the year. But those may seem like small things, but I know every community probably has like a local pizza place, right? Like I know there's a pizza place that our family, and I go to probably like once a week. And so, you know, my local pizza shop, like I'm going to go there, you know, seeing flyers or community boards there, even just running in and taking out food. Those are really good connecting points for families. So if you are a business owner or if you're a PTA or someone like that, connect with those places because they're great ways to get information across.
Thanks, Sheree. Anyone else?
All facts. I'd say too, as well as the Civic League, we, as Sheree said, whether it's Miss Kim up at the Spartan Market or the Crazy Wing spot, or the guy who does the lawnmower stuff, he fixed small engines, or the small church up the street. We try to get those resources out to folks. And not only that, like right now, we've been hitting up every single business and letting them know about the core money that's out there, right? Because they don't even know, like that. It is a symbiotic relationship. But I can say as a Civic League president, I can speak for Ballentine Place, our doors are always welcome to anybody. Like, we don't care who shows up to our meeting. You don't even have to live in the neighborhood, because it's an opportunity for resource giving. And to your point, I know because it's something that I know has been on my heart for a while, particularly because I grew up in a Black and Hispanic neighborhood, that there's also a resource if you're trying to reach that demographic. There's a newspaper called Hispanos de Bayor, and they always have stuff going on. They have a Facebook page, and that's another sort of, I'll put it in the chat box, but we just try to be assets. And the thing about our neighborhood, I will speak for myself, and I'd like to say I speak for the rest of the board and the community, is that we're not trying to be the only asset. We want you to come in so that we can turn you into a resource, because we all are about, teaching folks how to fish. So I think it's a great opportunity to have a touch point with any one of these people up here so that you now can become a resource, and we connect dots as we should be already. And use neighborhood development and advocate for them to have more in their budget, because they do great things. I'm just saying. Sorry.
And what was that about the census again, Jackie?
I say do your blank census. That's what I say. But I will say, I don't want to suffer in silence. You guys have to understand, like, this is monies, right? This is monies that we're talking about. If it's not, we are having very broad conversation about racial issues, but that is married even more with the wealth and the money issues that we have. So if the census is one way to start really understanding and accounting for what you think that your neighborhood, your schools, your hospitals, all these things need. So, like, if you have not done your census and you show up to our meeting, I'm going to ask you, can you just do it right now? Can you just do it now? We will stand by for you. Like, it needs to be that serious, because I think it is what is holding us up, because our tax dollars are being disproportionately used in different parts of our own city, and we know this. But the only way to really start holding accountability is within our own communities. I know the schools put it out to us to do our census, but like it just needs to be done. There's no negotiating there.
I'm not going to compete with that. That's great.
All right. I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat room or the Q&A. I don't see any call-in participants. I don't think I'm missing anybody, so I don't know that I need to unmute everybody unless, unless somebody has, a big burning question. We still have like 33 or 30 participants, so unmuting everybody, all 30 participants, might get a little crazy. What was that? Oh, raise your hand.
If somebody wants to make a comment, maybe you can ask them to raise their hand.
Yeah, if anyone wants to make a comment, I see the chat.
I didn't say this. I know I've been told my whole life I talk too much and I don't mind my own business, but I'm proud of that now, okay? So I'm just going to say something. We've all used this as an opportunity to really work for police department, like block by block. So like that is another asset that you have. A lot of us have community resource officers that really don't want to be showing up just for the negative things. So this is too an opportunity to really connect with that community resource officer. We don't have a neighborhood watch or anything like that, and I don't know that we will have one just based off the dynamics of the community, but we've been able to develop out a plan, as Nikki said, using this person as an asset and figure out what block is in the middle of transitioning, what little citizens are on there, that particular block that we might have to go show a little bit more love because they're farther away from the park, which we'll be getting here pretty soon. So really, also I just wanted to put that out there that Norfolk PD is another asset in just big picture, COVID, communities, schools, and all of that.
Very good. Again, if you, Jackie mentioned CROs. If you contact your neighborhood development specialist, or if you contact your local patrol, or if you call the chief's office, any of those resources can help connect you with your community resource officer. Do any of the panelists, I'm not seeing any additional questions, do any of the panelists have any further comments?
I would say that you should start to follow your PTAs on Facebook. That is another way just to know what's going on in the city. I actually follow PTAs at schools that my kids don't go to, just so that I can know what is going on. Follow Norfolk Public Schools on Facebook too. There are ways to find out things about what's going on in the school system. If you're about school advocacy, think about following Norfolk Games, because I usually get school board meeting information first from them before I see it on the Norfolk Public Schools Facebook page. So there are ways to just keep yourself tapped in if you use social media a little bit or a lot. Again, connect with us, connect with Sharice, connect with me, connect with Jim or Jackie or Nikki. We will be happy to talk your ear off and listen to you. And again, thanks for the opportunity this evening. This was lovely, even though I keep losing my internet access. But I think we need to have more discussions along these lines. And thank you. And I'm going to sign off. I'm going to stop talking with that.
Thank you, Sarah. In the old days, 6 months ago, when we had NBN Academy sessions, we would give all of our panelists a gift bag with some of our neighborhood development swag. That's a little more difficult in the new normal. But we do want to thank Sarah. And because Sarah is a professional, I did try to go put myself a light so I would not be backlit so much, just because trying to improve my performance on virtual meetings.
Yes, I'm a big stickler about lighting on virtual meetings, and I'm actually giving a presentation to the TCC faculty during our professional development week on how to present yourself on Zoom. So I have been walking all over this vacation house trying to find a place where I could get the proper lighting and have something behind me so the walls, didn't look so bare. Yeah, I'm a little crazy that way. But we all have to have our things we're crazy about, and that can be mine. So thanks.
Well, thanks, Sarah. We appreciate it. Any other closing comments from our panelists?
Sure, Michelle. I'll be happy to teach that course.
I'll be
happy to teach that course. I've got to teach it in a week and a half anyway, so I can do it again after that. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Anyway, I'll be quiet now so we can finish up.
Now, I was just going to say I appreciate the willingness for everybody to want to be able to share their gifts and share information, and also be willing to listen and learn. It's a great thing to be able to. When Jim and I talked about coming up with the webinar, and we said, well, we're going to contact Sharice, and Sharice was like, I'm ready. Let's talk about it. And then so you're bringing people together. That's the great thing about what we do in our division, is that we really get a chance to talk and listen to all different types of people. And so I think it's great that we have a chance to listen to each other and in such a positive way. I think that the city of Norfolk has so many great tools that we can tap into, and so many intelligent people, whether you just listen or you actually participate, just to be part of it is that's what's going to make the neighborhood great. Like I said, you know, the residents, the people are the biggest asset of the city of Norfolk. So I'm excited to see what we can do when we think and go forward with our thoughts. So thank you.
Thanks, Nikki.
You're welcome.
Jackie, any closing comments?
I was going to say nothing. I told you I talked too much already. I was going to say that out of whether you're watching this live or watching this on the replay, that we all essentially as leaders of organization need you, right? If we're going to do business better, we need you, because the way you're seeing this world, the way you're seeing our world, the way you're seeing the city, the way you're seeing schools are very different probably from our own. Your lived experience are different. So if you do one thing, I would hope that that one thing would be to just connect. Just connect. All the information is right here on the screen. Like, just reach out and just say, hey, put me on your mailing list, to Jim specifically, and Nikki. But that's all. We just need the touch points. The more touch points we have, the more accountability we have, the more of a force we are. The people are what power the city, and our disconnection is what allows us to see the things that we don't want to see. So just connect. That's what I would ask.
Great stuff. Thank you again. I have enjoyed working with all four of our panelists, and it has been, I've just enjoyed it. I've learned a lot, and I'm so appreciative for all of your involvement in the neighborhoods and with PTAs and all that you're doing. I've looked at your organizations, and it is just, it is really inspiring to me to know that there's people like you out there. With that, if you haven't, for those of you who are participants this evening, if you haven't taken our NBN Academy evaluation, we would appreciate it. That helps us measure our impact and determine our future direction, and keeps us accountable to our city council and our department directors. That's all we have. Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate your attendance. Have a good evening.